This episode is brought to you by CookUnity. I'm obviously passionate about at-home dining, and CookUnity has brought a new solution to my table. Unlike conventional food delivery services, CookUnity operates as a chef-to-you platform, delivering exceptional restaurant-quality meals directly to your doorstep. They're so good that our crew eats them on shoot days instead of ordering in. Today I'm trying the grilled chicken and quinoa bowl by Chef Andres Mendez. Other favorites of mine are the chicken and egg rice bowl by Chef Esther Choi, and the Mexican chicken, shrimp, and chorizo paella by Chef Santiago Lopez. Real chefs, real flavors. That's what I love about CookUnity. Upgrade your dining game at cookunity.com/babish50 or click the link below. Using my code babish50 supports this channel and also gets you an exclusive 50% off your first order.
Jesus, this is actually good.
Yeah, the egg bar is coveted as f***.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at the egg bar from Severance. This being one of the more coveted perks at Lumen Industries, how do we go about making an egg bar that's coveted as f***? We must of course begin with the precision poaching of eggs. As you can see, I got about 2 quarts of water just barely boiling, around 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which is going to more gently poach the eggs. Today we're going to need both soft and hard-boiled eggs, the former of which is going to take about 6 minutes, and for a nice fudgy hard-boiled yolk, I'm letting the latter go for 10 before immediately plunging in an ice bath, which is both going to halt cooking and make the eggs easier to peel, especially after they've spent 30 minutes in the cold plunge. We're going to start by trying to make as many small cracks as possible all over the egg, and I'm peeling these with gloves on, both because a lot of people are going to eat them and because they're going to help prevent our fingernails from gouging any holes in the exterior. Because for deviled eggs in particular, you want nice, smooth, shiny, round eggs. Give them a little dip in the water to remove any shell fragments, and then it's time to tackle the first of 2 types of deviled eggs, regular deviled eggs. And as you can see, our yolks are set, but not powdery or firm, and none of the dreaded green that comes with overcooked yolks. Gently press the yolk out of the white, leaving us with clean, cholesterol-free cups and a bowl full of delicious, creamy artery cloggers, which we're going to make all the more delicious and creamy with some stuff. 1 teaspoon Dijon mustard, the juice of 1 lemon, about 2 to 3 tablespoons worth, and even more eggs in the form of mayonnaise. Start with 1 large egg, half a clove of garlic, 1 or 2 cautious blurps of Dijon mustard, a generous pinch of kosher salt, and lemon juice. Basically all the stuff that we're putting in the egg yolk mixture. In a cup the same width as your immersion blender head. Use said head to blitz this mixture into a smooth consistency. Carefully pour 1 cup of neutral flavored oil down the side of the cup so it settles on top of the egg mixture. Blitz on high speed starting at the bottom and work your way up for a nice creamy homemade mayonnaise, about a half cup of which we're going to add to our 8 egg yolks, along with kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. I also like to add a little glug of spicy fruity olive oil and a generous trickle of pickle juice, about 1 to 2 tablespoons each. Now we're going to whip this together using a wire whisk into a creamy filling for our egg white cups. Now this doesn't need to be perfectly smooth, but I was a little bothered by the lumps of unincorporated egg yolk, so I'm passing this mixture through a fine mesh sieve, which is both going to filter out and crush up any stubborn solids. Now at this point you can taste for seasoning and adjust for consistency by adding heavy cream, the oil of olives, or the juice of pickles, as well as just seasoning before placing in a piping bag and fridging for about half an hour to firm things up. Now all we gotta do is elegantly pipe this stuff into the egg whites and garnish when it comes time to serve. For now, these guys can get loosely covered with plastic wrap and fridged for up to 4 days. Next up, the egg bar's second type of deviled egg, those wild looking purple eggs, which were most likely pickled in some very blood-like beet juice. So I got 3 jars of pickled beets here, whose blood I'm going to vampirically steal, 2 cups worth of the stuff, resign myself to having to eat a whole lot of pickled beets over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and bring this pickling liquid over to the stovetop where we're going to make it even picklier. Pouring them into a small saucepan along with a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/4 cup of plain white sugar, 2 tablespoons of pickling spices, mixture of bay leaves, peppercorns, mustard seeds, etc., and a half teaspoon of kosher salt. Bring this all to a simmer and cook for 5 minutes until the sugar is entirely dissolved. Then we're both going to dilute and more quickly cool this mixture using a cup of ice water. Once it is cooled to slightly lukewarm, we're going to pour it over our hard-boiled eggs in a zip-top bag for easy agitation and submersion, and leaving to pickle in the fridge for anywhere from 3 days to up to 2 weeks. The longer you go, the further the eggs will be penetrated by the purple dye. Due to my needing to take a few sick days, these guys were in the fridge for over a week and a half. Let's cut them open and see what kind of penetration we've achieved. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. As you can see, the egg white has become egg purple, and it's been made much firmer by the pickling process, which comes in handy because now we have to delicately dig out the egg yolk because these little weirdos are served served hollowed out and standing up. I'm also placing a very small cut on the bottom of the egg cup so that they stand up straight. And there you have it, something you could not pay me to eat if I didn't know what it was. Now I've scooped these beautiful Monet-like egg yolks directly into the bowl of a food processor, 10 egg yolks worth, that I'm going to combine with 4 ounces of goat cheese, the zest of 1 lemon, 1 teaspoon of champagne vinegar, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and a preliminary sprinkling of kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. I'm also going to add that same little drizzle of olive oil just to introduce even more fat into the situation. Then, just like in therapy, I'm going to process this until it smooths out. Give it a taste for seasoning and texture. I'm going to thin mine out using a little bit of heavy cream, and it wants for herbaceousness, so I'm going to add a little bit of dried dill, which hopefully won't turn it green. Plop into a piping bag, this time with a star tip, and just like at the dentist, I'm going to fill these cavities, piping a generous swirl of our egg oranges into our egg purples. Likewise, these can be covered and fridged for a few days before serving. Last up, there appeared to be soft-boiled eggs and soldiers. So if we can't show a waffle party on this channel, we can at least make some waffle soldiers to dip in our eggs. I want a super crispy waffle, so I'm going to combine 200 grams of all-purpose flour with about 60 grams of cornstarch, which should give our waffles a firmer, crunchier texture at the expense of browning. I'm also adding 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons sugar, 1 teaspoon baking powder, and a half teaspoon of baking soda, whisking together the dries before adding the wets. To try and compensate for the cornstarch, I'm going to use brown butter in this recipe, 12 tablespoons or 175 grams of unsalted, cooking over medium heat and swirling constantly until the milk fats separate and brown, allowing to cool but still remain liquid before adding to the waffle batter. Making sure to scrape off all that delicious brown stuff on the bottom of the bowl. 2 cups or 475 ml of buttermilk, and 2 large eggs, whisking until no dry patches remain, but it's still pretty lumpy. Make sure all your liquid ingredients are at room temperature or your butter's going to seize up. Once you have your wild new vertical waffle iron preheated, pour in a cup of the stuff and let it rock for an unusually long period of time, ensuring a deep brown crust that won't soften or get soggy. Once all my waffles are done, I'm placing them on a wire rack set in a rim baking sheet and keeping them warm in a 225-degree Fahrenheit oven where they will continue to firm and crisp. This is also going to serve as a finishing rack for the final elements of our egg bar, my oldest enemy, Scotch eggs. First up, the sausage coating. Just like at the dermatologist, I'm squeezing this, never mind. I'm combining a pound of English banger sausage meat with a heaping teaspoon of hot mustard, 1/4 cup of freshly chopped chives, and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. I'm now going to wrap this sausage mixture around 4 soft-boiled eggs, making sure the egg is fully ensconced and sealed shut. Then we're starting a standard 3-stage breading process, all-purpose flour into beaten egg into plain breadcrumbs, shaking off any excess before deep frying in some 375-degree Fahrenheit neutral flavored oil, stirring occasionally to make sure that they're evenly cooked. Now, unfortunately, my first batch both developed cracks. I suspect both because I used a very finely ground emulsified sausage mixture and because it was too thinly wrapped around the egg. For once, getting a runny yolk was the least of my problems. So not only did these guys crack, I wasn't crazy about their flavor and texture. I wanted more herby, breakfasty flavors in my sausage. So I decided to start from scratch with a pound of nice, coarsely ground pork, to which I'm adding a teaspoon of freshly chopped thyme and a tablespoon each fresh sage and chives, the usual sprinkles of kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper, and I'm also going to spice things up a little bit with a tiny pinch each, allspice, mace, ginger powder, garlic powder, and freshly grated nutmeg. I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of hot, dry mustard. Now this time I wanted to get things mixed up, but not overmixed. I want to form a strong network of protein so the sausage doesn't break apart, but not overwork it to the point where it shrinks too much. If you want, you can fry up a little patty of this stuff to test seasoning. So this time I'm using a pound of meat to coat 3 eggs instead of 4. And this time when I seal it shut, I am not f***ing around. I'm stretching and smearing the meat over any potential cracks and allowing these guys to rest in the fridge for 30 minutes before breading and frying. And then, just as one more failsafe, I'm also going to double bread these guys, starting by coating in flour, followed by egg, followed by breadcrumbs, back to egg, and then one more time in the breadcrumbs, hopefully yielding a crack-proof crust. This time I'm also using more oil so that the egg gets completely covered, and I also brought along Alana Glazer and their husband for good luck. What, you don't believe me? See? But even with all that, my eggs still cracked. Desperate and hungry and afraid, I decided to try something that's worked for me in the past, using panko breadcrumbs, which is going to give a nicer crust anyway. I'm just doing a single coat, this time very thoroughly pressing the breadcrumbs into the sausage, getting as many as can physically fit on there. I'm not sure why I thought this would fix the problem, but it's what my heart was saying to do, and just like at the cardiologist, I was trying to listen to my heart. I'm also frying these guys at 350 degrees Fahrenheit instead of 375, and either that or the breadcrumbs caused the cracks to stop occurring, yielding 2 perfect giant golden dragon eggs, which, like I mentioned earlier, are going to get finished off in the oven next to the waffles. That's everything, so now it's time to plate up, garnish, and serve. I'm sprinkling the deviled eggs with smoked paprika and chopped chives, and it looked like the beet deviled eggs were garnished with a single leaf of tarragon, which is going to play real nice with all those flavors. So there's our cold eggs. Now it's time for the hot. I'm chopping up the nice crispy waffles into individual soldiers, and I intended to poise a bunch of soft-boiled eggs in these cute little egg cups. But this is how they actually arrive from Amazon, so it's going to be more like one single proud soft-boiled egg, which was prepared by simmering the egg for 6 minutes, then running it under cold tap water for 30 seconds, which should cool it off enough to halt the cooking process but keep it nice and warm for serving. Chop off the top, exposing the set white and runny yolk, stack up some soldiers alongside. Then as a sauce for the Scotch eggs, I made a 50-50 mix of our homemade mayo and grain mustard. Now, just like at the doctor, we're going to check our huevos. The sausage is fully cooked and the yolks are still nice and runny. And there you have it, the coveted egg bar perk, which I was so excited about finally finishing, I completely forgot to make the fruit punch. So just pretend there's a big punch bowl of Kool-Aid next to this, please. First up, the waffle soldiers and soft-boiled egg. And I'm happy to say that this combination works really, really well. The waffles are super crisp on the outside, but they're like a dense souffle on the inside. And they make for quite a hearty egg dipper. The Scotch eggs, in spite of giving me the usual amount of trouble, turned out to be worth the effort, with really well-balanced seasoning, flavors, and textures. Our big old pickled beet eggs are best eaten in 2 to 3 bites, are really fantastically delicious. The briny beets and rich goat cheese work together about as well as you'd imagine. And even though they're the most plain Jane of the bunch, the classic deviled eggs tick all the deviled egg boxes. Overall, a wide variety of demonstrations of just how good eggs can be, and hopefully one of those perks that would make being an innie less of a nightmare. Thanks again to Cook Unity for sponsoring this episode. With dishes meticulously crafted by esteemed chefs like Food Network veterans to James Beard Award recipients, it feels as though you have the masters personally catering to your mealtime with a flexible schedule. With Cook Unity, you can set your preferences to call out what you like and don't like, then pick a plan to get menus tailored to your taste 2 weeks in advance. And with chef quality in mind, their meals arrive fresh, not frozen, with chef's instructions and nutrition details attached. Go to cookunity.com/Babish50 or click the link in the description and use my code Babish50 to get 50% off your first order of Cook Unity meals to try them out for yourself.